And we are live. And with me, I have Ausyarr, and I also have JPM. Hello, everybody. So far, we have 0 viewers right now, but hello anyway for people who would watch in the future. And also, you made a very interesting video. You made a video about Mouthy Buddha and talking about the Jewish question. Do you want to talk about that soon?
Oh yeah, sure. So I saw a lot of people just trying to condemn Matthew Buddha, and my headphones are saying they're running out of battery right now. I'll fix that first. So I saw a lot of people condemning Mouthy for just making these videos, right, and attempting to shame him and shame anyone who didn't fall into line and shame him. There was a lot of guilt by association. If you don't do this, well, you're just as bad. You're helping the alt-right, you're helping the Nazis, etc. And I've been reading a book called The Psychology of Influence. And what I've been seeing all this time is essentially people preventing alt-right people from even being converted back. They're actually putting roadblocks up to stop people from even coming back from the pressure point. So these people say people who have who get bad ideas in their heads, and they express these bad ideas, then what will happen is people will shame them and condemn them. Those people will then won't stop having those bad ideas. In fact, they'll move away, and they'll find other people with the same bad ideas, and that bad idea will be strengthened. So with all these, say, progressives, etc., trying to shame and condemn people like Matthew Buddha, what they're really doing is they're actually just strengthening the alt-right by providing them with more recruits and preventing any kind of chance of pulling people out of the alt-right. That's basically what my video is about.
Now, how long did it take you to make that video?
Oh, about maybe 3 weeks.
And would you describe yourself as a centrist or?
Oh, definitely a centrist. I started YouTube ages and ages ago, and I used to be a big fan of the Young Turks. So back then I would have been definitely called a lefty. And nowadays I see I watch people like Sargon, Crowder, and also watch Jimmy Dore. So I'm watching across the spectrum, and so very much I'm a centrist now.
Yeah, same here. Like, I was a huge Young Turks fan some time back. I worshipped Chink Euchre. Like, Chink Euchre was my Jesus. I mean, I wasn't sexually attracted to him. I didn't view him in any kind of sexual way. It wasn't like that. But it's kind of a lot like he was like my religious figure. Like, he was just an idol in my eyes. And then, like, I
A
saw,
father
like,
figure,
huh?
like a father figure.
Yeah, something like a father figure or a teacher figure. He was much more like a teacher, and I feel like the students, and I feel like I was like learning all of these great things. It's like, wow, like he is so amazing. And then I saw like video responses to the Young Turks, and initially, I just was just really pissed off and angry looking at the response videos because I mean it. There were like there were like all of these insults and whatnot. Like there are some good points in there, but it's like when you are a huge fan of somebody and a person is just making all of these insults. I mean, it's just there were good points, but I just wish that people would just focus more on the points than the insults because when I was first watching the response videos, I was just angry, pissed off, really, really mad and angry. Not so much because he was getting criticized, but it's like the, insults particularly.
Yeah, people they make decisions based on intuitions, the gut feelings. So essentially,
Yeah.
when you're watching these videos and they're attacking Jank is your friend, right? And emotionally, you're trying to protect Jank because he's a friend. He's a friendly figure, right? And so even if they're making the best points in the world, right? If they come at it from an angle of this guy sucks, he's stupid, you don't see the good point. You immediately see red, and
Yeah,
Well,
this
it's
one
happens all the time.
problem, hold on, one problem I see is that far too often people on the left and some on the right won't even bother to tip their hats to anyone, opponents, friends, anyone. I mean, what I mean is lack of respect. Is that
Yeah,
what
that's right.
you're all getting? I mean, I make it a point to tip my hat in any video I do for that, because of that. Because it's nothing personal. It's, if anything, I just think that in YouTube land, there is a lot of disrespect on all sides. And it's kind of like everyone, first word out of their mouth when they hear something, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to fight you, or Nazi, or anything like that. Am
Well,
I making
I talk about
sense?
it in my video. Yeah, I talk about that in my video. If you really want to convince someone, right? Uh, First of all, you've got to give them a tiny bit, so that they'll give you something back. So just being showing good manners to someone will make them feel like as if they have to return something to you. So as you said, when you tip your hat to someone, right, they're immediately not going to like hate you. Like, in fact, they've got to overcome that little nicety to even hate you. And that's like the first step to actually making some kind of bridge.
Yeah, like when I was watching the Young Turks, and then like I saw this video by Vernaculus, which was really really harsh, and it was just so harsh. It's kind of a lot. Like, it was hard to notice the good points. Like, I heard it, but it's kind of a lot like when you're still attached to the Young Turks, and then a person uses the nastiest comments that they could use. It's kind of like it for a huge fan. It would just piss off the huge fan. Like your video, against the alt-rights, your video was nicer. Like, I think that an alt-righter would probably actually listen and take you to consideration. But, like, I just felt so angry and pissed off because you're still emotionally attached to somebody. And, like, if there was more of a focus to the points, like, I'm just gonna, here's my points. If that was the main focus, I probably wouldn't have that reaction. Like, I probably wouldn't have been so angry. Anyway, let's see. Oh, I already asked you that one. You did bring up some good points. You said the condemned don't grow closer to the ones doing the condemning. They grow further away and closer to the hands of the alt-right. It is something worth quoting and mentioning because I do see a lot of truth in that. Um, I don't necessarily agree with you when you said when you give people something small,
Excuse
people
me.
find it's hard not to give back. Because there are people who use people, who take advantage of people, people who they don't really give two shits that you do something nice for them. So,
Well,
um,
the idea behind the reciprocity rule, the idea behind the reciprocity rule is that humans have evolved to have this built into their psychology of if you give something, the other person feels the need to repay back, and it's sort of like the building block of all societies, right? Now, like other things that have been evolved, I mean, that have come through evolution, we've also evolved tactics on how to stop it from working and how to take advantage of it. So, just for example, through evolution, lying helps you get your way through life, right? So that's why we can lie. However, we've also evolved lie detectors. So not only do we have the ability to lie, we have the ability to detect lies, right? And so when the ability to detect lies comes, the evolution steps up the next process and goes, how can we be better at lying, right? And so forth. There's better people who can lie better, and then there are people who can detect lies better. So we may know some people, right, who can just look at someone's face and they just know who's lying. And then we know someone, you can just tell them anything and they'll believe it. You know, they're gullible, right? So when it comes to the reciprocity rule, some people are actually good at A, using it to take advantage of people, or B, they're good at recognizing when it's happening and deflecting it. So, say when I'm trying to think what they're called, the Mormons, when they come to your front door, right, the first thing they do is they greet you. That's them trying to get you to stay inside the conversation, right? If they just came to the door and said, we want to talk to you about the good book, right? You're not going to say this. You're going to be like, no, I don't care. And you're going to shut the door in their face. But they have all these little psychological tricks, right? Just to keep you on the line a little bit longer. The same thing happens with people asking for donations. A lot of times they'll give you a gift, first off. The Hare Krishnas, originally, they're most known for them chanting Hare Krishna over and over again and irritating the shit out of people. At some point, they realized that didn't work. And then they came up with this tactic where they would say, they'd go to public places and they'd hand out these flowers, right? And once they handed over the flower, right, they said, that's a gift. Now, would you like to donate to us, right? And surprisingly enough, this tactic works a lot. What would happen is, in that day, is they'd hand out these flowers, right? And then at midday, one of them would go around to all the bins and pull the flowers back out and take it back to the original location and hand those flowers out again. Why? Because giving makes people feel like they want to give back. And if you're unaware of it, you may just give them money.
Well, only if it's like viewed as sincere giving, I suppose. Like, oh, look here, take this, and I would hope that you would, give back, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Um, oh, and you said,
Yeah, if you recognize it as a trap to begin with, right, the trick doesn't work on you.
yeah. There's something you also said later on in the video. Um, you said shaming is only good for keeping people who share your morals in line. If they don't care about your morals, then the shaming would have zero effect. Now, me and I don't know if you've heard of him, but me and Nick Carroll, we discussed something similar to this. And because this was when I was a really strong lefty, like when I was very strongly to
The good old classic guilt tripping. Sell someone on a guilt trip and they'll give to you through the wazoo.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Shame and guilt are essentially tactics to keep people from leaving the social group. Humans are social creatures, and we feel at home inside of a social group, right? So when someone threatens you with expulsion, that's very scary because having no friends is dangerous. In an evolutionary way of looking at it, if you have no friends or family, you're dead, right? You essentially need safety in numbers. So when the SJWs shame people, what they're really doing, right, is they're trying to prevent you from moving away from the group. They're trying to prevent you from going into another group. They're saying if you continue on with your actions or have whatever you think, right, then what we're going to do is we're going to shut you off. We're going to block you, probably on Twitter, right? And then once you're outside of that group, you don't get the protection of the SJWs at all. They don't come to you.
Oh
To your
yeah.
defense. And remember that for all the time you've been in their group, right, they've been telling you that outside their group is dangerous. Like the Republicans, they're dangerous. The shitlords, they're dangerous. If you leave our group, you have to look after yourself and you're dead, really. And the vice versa, it happens in the other direction as well.
Oh, don't I know it? I mean, and I think another part of this too is this tendency to defer to authority. I've heard of airplane crashes that have occurred because of that have killed people. Because you have this authority figure and everyone's looking up to them and they give undue deference.
Yeah, we have people like Anita Sarkeesian, which would be equivalent to the authority figure.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I sometimes think Christy Winters can also be like that, even if she never intended it.
Oh, that's right, yeah, because if Christy Winters says his shit, the other people around Christy Winters, they're not going to spend too much thinking about whether or not you are actually shit. They're afraid themselves of being kicked out, so they're just going to naturally attack you, which is what happened to Rez Please, I believe.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I mean, this type of tendency to defer has led to various types of accidents, misjudgments, whole 9 yards. People have died because of it. G. Stanley Milgram, eat your heart out.
The reality is thinking is actually difficult. It takes up energy. And so what we do in life is we take a lot of ordinary things that we do every single day, right? And we put shortcuts to them, right? So like when I go to cross the street, right, I immediately look left, I immediately look right, and I don't see any cars, I start walking across, right? Did I think about whether or not that was the best strategy for walking across the street? No, because it's a shortcut and I know it works, right? As with authority figures, if I listen to one authority figure like say Cenk Uygur, right, and I believe him to be right quite a lot, I start building that shortcut figure. So in the future, he just says stuff, I believe it straight away, right? Because I don't want to have to think about whether or not he's lying to me. Has he checked all his facts? No, it's much simpler for me to go with the shortcut method and think about what the authority says. And in that case, and occasionally, sometimes shortcuts don't work. And then you die, of course.
So what do you mean when you say that thinking is actually difficult?
Well, it's not so much difficult, but it's it consumes energy. And so essentially the brain has evolved to create shortcuts in the mind, right? To make the process of thinking more efficiently, right? So if you think about like gravity, we always know things fall, right? So you know when you get say seasick, when people get seasick, right? Wait, I'm just gonna rethink with this one. Okay, when someone's on a boat and they see the horizon move up and down, right, and then they get seasick, right? what's actually happening is the brain has these shortcuts, and one of the shortcuts is the horizon should not move, right? And so what it thinks is if the horizon's not moving, something is wrong with your mind, right? There's a couple things that could be wrong with your mind. One, you're a nutcase, right? Two, you've been poisoned, right? Which is another shortcut. Your mind goes, well, if the horizon is moving and it shouldn't, shortcut, you're probably being poisoned. You should start vomiting up. And that's
another part of that too
poisoning.
is, sorry for interrupting, but
What were you saying, Ausyarr?
I was just saying that the mind can't constantly think about everything it's doing, right? It has to have shortcuts to survive. You would spend so long, like walking downstairs. You don't think about that. That's a shortcut. The distance you put your leg forward and down, that's a shortcut. Things such like the horizon not moving, that's a shortcut. And that comes into things with authority figures. If, say, Christy Winters, if Christy Winters says something and she's an authority figure, some people's shortcuts will be like, whatever she says is correct, without thinking about it. Same thing with Anita Sarkeesian. Same thing with Donald Trump. They're all shortcuts.
Do you think that a logic course would help?
It would help a little bit, but a lot of the times when these things are occurring, you don't know they're occurring. So you don't even know when your mind's taking that shortcut. And a lot of the times, you'll ad hoc reason why you did that shortcut after the fact, is they've done studies where they ask people, say for example, there's a moral question, right? If you find a dead chicken, right, what would be wrong with having sex with it, right? Technically, there's actually no reason why there's something wrong with doing that, right? But people will find reasons. I know it's a weird example, but this is the example they use in the studies. They find something where people immediately take a shortcut, and then when they ask to explain why they made that decision, which in most cases is it's wrong, they ad hoc bad reasons onto it.
Okay, so JP wanted to say something. So you want to go ahead and say it?
yes, I do. What I was going to mention was you were talking about things like horizons, and that's part of a body orientation system. Now, one thing that happens with pilots flying at night is that since there's no clear horizon, so they can't tell the difference between up and down. So that's why they have to rely upon instruments. And I mean, that's what killed Buddy Holly.
Oh,
Type of disorientation.
Did they have to, like, say, pull up? But what he actually did was he was flying upside down and he essentially pulled down, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like right now I am parallel to the ground. Now, if we were able to tilt the ground, if we were able to tilt the floor I'm standing on, then I could be fooled into thinking that I am parallel to the ground. Particularly if I don't have any visual references.
And this is why was it overseas flights always require 2 pilots, because when one goes to sleep,
most commercial pilots That's why most commercial pilots that fly for airlines have to be trained to use their instruments for their orientation, such as their ADI. The problem with Buddy Holly's pilot was that he didn't use, he wasn't trained to use his ADI yet, so, and he was flying in hostile weather with no visual cues. So his senses fooled him. Am I making sense?
Oh yeah. The idea is that we have these shortcuts, and what we have to do is every once in a while we have to check other sources of information, right, to make sure that our shortcuts are actually leading us in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Which case, Buddy Holly's pilot didn't do that and crashed.
And actually, the instrument training, they call it instrument rating, is you rely specifically on instruments such as your ADI, not what your eyes tell you.
And then, of course, they have backups for the
Yeah,
instruments, right? Because they know full well the instruments themselves suffer from the same issues, and they can fail.
yeah, and that has happened. And that actually fed into this thing with authority, leading to a Boeing 747 to crash right into the ground because the pilot had banked 90 degrees.
And so this reminds me of something that Sean had said a while ago. She said it at the that MIFCon. She said that you should watch people you disagree with, right? And that is the perfect way to check your shortcuts, to see what someone who disagrees with you says, right? Because at least in that sense, they're giving you evidence that doesn't agree with you. Therefore, you have to sort of think about, am I really right in this situation? And so that's how you, yeah. Ren, you still there? No. Let's think of something.
Oh,
How
I'm
cool is my
sorry. I
eyes?
am really sorry about that. I'm really sorry about that. I was accidentally on mute. What I was
That's
saying
all
is
right.
we've gotten a little bit off topic. Yeah, we've gotten off topic from what we were talking about earlier, and
Talking about phones.
I want to go back and continue where I left off. Um, you said in your video, shaming is only good for keeping people who share your morals in line. If they don't care about your morals, then shaming would have zero effect. And it took me back to a time when I was like to like the far left, like maybe not like social justice warrior-ish. Like I wouldn't say I was a social justice warrior, but I would say that I was definitely a leftist. I was a Young Turks fan. I sort of, kind of enjoyed the entire bank shows. And like I was open up to using different pronouns. Like I was open back, this transgender pronouns or Z0. This isn't actually that new. Like something like this was brought up when the Tyra Banks show was a thing, where she brought in an intersex person and they brought up with Z0. And I was like open to it. Like back then I was a Democrat. I couldn't imagine myself ever voting Republican. And like I noticed that there's this idea that Republicans were racist, and this like isn't a new thing. The idea that Republicans are racist, it's actually quite old. And I also think like, wow, Republicans are racist. And I talked to Nick Carroll about it, Nick Carroll has been a Republican for years and years, and he made it clear that he never really cared. Like Republicans are used to being called racist, and they just stopped caring. But like for me, like as a Democrat or as an ex-Democrat, like at the time like it was like it had a strong effect on me, like they didn't care at all. But for me, it was not like, oh no, like those people are racist. And it kept me very loyal to the Democratic Party. I could never ever see myself voting Republican, like even I did vote Donald Trump, and I did vote straight Republican with the election of Donald Trump, but I still like had this dirty feeling, like it's just still because that's the power of propaganda. Like that's the power of really good propaganda. Where I voted Republican for the first time, but there's still this part of me that feel like dirty and ugly. Part of me feel like I needed to take a bath, as soon as I did it. um, like I voted Republican. It's like, man, I need to take a bath right now because it just leaves you feeling grotesque because it's kind of a lot like, those people are the racists, those people are the racists. And it does a great job at keeping the believers in line. And I realized like being called a racist, like that's what led me to the rights in the first place. Is that the left I had to disagree with what's his name again? I think his name's Dave Rubin. I don't think people
Yeah.
actually leave the left. I think people get purged out of the left rather than leaving. Because for me, I was happy being a leftist. I loved being a leftist. In a sense, being to the left is like being a religion because it's like this is your group and you like being part of your group. But then they begin to purge. They begin to be a lot like, oh, you think this? Well, this is racist, or you think that, and that is racist, and they start targeting you. Like it's kind of like how do I put it? It's like how Christians turn against each other, and how Christians be like, well, she had sex without being married, or oh, this person they did drugs, or that person is actually gay. You know how like Christians turn against each other? Well, that was the way it was like with the left, where it's like, oh, I love being in the left, and I'm really happy because that's my group. That's my group there. But then they turn on you, and it's kind of like, well, you think this? Well, this makes you racist. Well, you think that? Well, that's a problem. Or, well, you think this? I mean, and that is what changed me. Like that's what really helped change me was being called a racist for the first time. Like when I got called racist for the very first time, it was a lot like what? That was a really impact a strong impact on me. And it's what like pushed me to the center. And right now my political compass is rights of censored, like I'm censored rights. Before I was to the left, but now my political compass changed to I'm closer to rights of censored. But that was like being called a racist for the very first time. That was devastating to me. Like that was like really that had a strong impact on me because it felt like I was being kicked out of the group. Like I was no longer good anymore. And like even like some of the
They eat
arguments
their
that
own. Sorry for
uh,
interrupting.
even with some of the arguments I got with the left, it was just so it just made me feel like terrible. And that is what
Oh,
helped
that
push me towards the rights. So I really do think that you brought up a great good point there. Like shaming keeps people in the group who shares that morals and shares that values in line, but however, I would say this, you're not going to convince people who are not racist that they are racist. Well, never mind. There are some people, uh, there are SJWs who would say I'm racist and everybody's racist. But for me, I was not convinced that I myself was racist. When that happened, when that happened, I just felt pushed further away from the left. And even as they go on their crusade against the centrist, and as they whine like the hashtag you might be a centrist if, which wasn't even funny or humorous. You could tell that they're to the left because of how boring and dull they were. It's kind of like it's just one of those things that just further alienates, and it just causes strong resentments where I could understand where some of it is coming from, because I have an upcoming video. I do have an upcoming video because I did talk to a person to the left on why they are against racist humor, and I could finally see their side of things. So I could like see where they're coming from, and I made like a polite video response where, well, a video talking about it. It's an upcoming video called SJW versus racist humor, where I did talk about where they were coming from, but still many of them kind of like Peter Coffin, many of them just do nothing but alienate people who are even at the center. Now it's like, oh, like, centrists are liars, centrists are manipulators, or nobody's actually to the center, and they just do things that drives people away from them. And it makes me wonder if this is how things were like in the McCarthy era, where people were like, are you are now, or have you ever been a communist? It's like this need for a witch hunt and to purge people away, when really there are people who would have really liked to support some of the causes, kind of like Prince of Queens. He is gay, but then it's like, well, are you willing to have sex with a trans man? If you don't have sex with a trans man, then you're transphobic. And Prince of Queens does not want to have sex with a trans man because a trans man would still have a vagina. And it's kind of like, I don't want to do that. It's
Wow,
just,
I thought Prince of Queens was trans. Learn something every day.
yeah. They
Yeah,
just,
well, I think the progressives are getting to a point where they are eating their own. People want enemies.
Well, I said that people
And witch hunts.
they they feel like they want to be inside of a social group, right? So there's a cost benefit to being in a social group, right? So being like the safety, that's a benefit. So what happened in your situation, right, was you had a sort of like a benefit from being inside the lefty type group, right? The feelings of Jenk being, great, and we're being the good guys, etc., like that, right? And the other people being the racist, right? And you're protected from them, etc. And then what happens is when they start shaming inwards, right, and they call you a racist, right, then your perception of the benefits of staying inside that group, right, gets diminished, right? And what happens is it gets to a point, right, where people just go, it's costing me too much to just stay inside this group, right? And then if, say, someone from an outside group, right, reaches their hand out and says, hey, we can be friends, right? Then what they're saying is, you know what? The investment you put in this group, right, you might get more benefits if you invest in our group. And so that's essentially what happened. That they called you racist. They probably did other stuff, right, over a long period of time, right? And that convince you that this group that I'm in right now, it's not a good group for me, and perhaps I should eject myself.
Yeah, I don't think people leave the left. I think people get purged from the left because the left, I mean, at least back when I was growing up, the left had really great propaganda. They had amazing propaganda because they like had the media, and like if you look at the Tyra Banks show now, you can see like some social justice like stuff that you hear like now. She was just more nicer about it, but you can even see some manipulative behavior, like even from Tyra Banks. You can see like some levels of manipulation.
They
But
could be.
Yeah, well, you always know your true friends when you disagree with them and they're still your friends. That's one of the keys I've kind of learned in life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. When it comes to love, but I would also say that um I wasn't a radical, I guess you could say. I wasn't an extremist. Like I wasn't at the point where I was mean and then nasty to people in the outs group. I wouldn't say that I was like that type of person. For example, like I do think I experienced some I definitely did experience some levels of cognitive dissonance. I think like some levels of it, like where you could, watch the Tyra Banks show or watch left wing media about John McCain voters being racist, but then talk to one and still be nice, kind, chilled with them, and you do go through like a cognitive dissonance, like, well, maybe this person is naive, or maybe this person is brainwashed, and you always think that the other person you always think that the other person is brainwashed. It's like, oh, no, it's not me that's brainwashed. I get my information and I have, and CNN is the most reliable news source. So, like, this other person who's going to vote for McCain, they just must be brainwashed, and they just don't know any better. That's all. And, so I did go through cognitive dissonance, definitely.
And they think the same of you.
Huh? What did you say?
The other people think the same of you. She's just brainwashed. She doesn't know. Fox News tells it's true, etc.
Yeah. It does. It does go. It is like that. Um, JPM, did you wanted to say something?
I
You're
was
on
just,
mute.
well, I forgot it, but it did slip my mind, but I was going to say that, well, I lost my train of thought. So, but anyway, I just want to say that when you talk about these in and out groups, geez, I'm just losing it today. Sorry.
Okay, well, JPM, how about this? What did you think about the Candace Owens Red Pill Black situation? Want to share your opinions on that?
Yeah, if she was the one that did the social autopsy website, that tells you something about her character, definitely. And I think she is kind of Machiavellian, trying to play one side off the other. And of course, when the other side says no, she turns on them and runs to the other side. And doxing, I mean, that's some very serious stuff right there. And that tells you something, that she doesn't care about other people, you know? I mean, there is a reason why I use my initials, JPM, instead of my real name.
Oh, yeah.
And I get just,
Oh,
and I mean, she's just trying, I think she's kind of like a Well, she's a snake oil salesman. When it comes down the line, I have trouble reading, so you have to excuse me there. My vision's bad. Sorry.
So, do you have anything else anymore you want to say about the Candace Owens situation, or did you say all that you wanted to say?
Well, basically, I did say all that I wanted to say. I don't think that anyone should be giving her any money.
Mm. Oh, okay. All right. There's something more I wanted to say. Okay, to you, Ausyarr, you said that you have a current project about predators, apologists, and manipulation in the SJW community, sexual harassment, pedophilia, domestic violence, and creeps. Did you wanted to go into detail about that? And how would this be different from Bearing's video or Computing Forever, because Computing Forever and Bearing are doing did a video on this. So like how would your video add something new and different from what's already out there?
Well, first of all, there's one story that they actually left out, which happened recently with a H bomber guy and a friend of his called Paper Lion, which was sort of swept underneath the under the carpet, and that was a case of some girl accusing Paper Lion of trying to rape her. It's essentially a case of sexual harassment, and what had happened was that H bomber initially disbelieved her, tried to convince her that what she had experienced wasn't real. As you know, this is a capital punishment in SJW land for doing such things, right? But the guy was definitely creepy, and H bomber guy knew about it for a long time. In fact, this girl, actually this guy's trans, sorry, had actually tried to bring this up to him. Actually, had tried to bring this up in a public chat, and H bomber took her out of the public chat into a private chat and told her not to accuse someone of rape, whatever, in a public setting, right? So it's sort of like all the things happening in Hollywood right now, where people knew about shit but they covered it up. Well, in this situation, H bomber essentially knew of these accusations a long time ago, right? And he essentially tried to convince a victim not to talk about it on several occasions, right? And this guy who was the accused was actually not only did he do work for H bomber's videos, audio work, he was also a mod on H bomber's Discord, and he had known this guy for several years, and knew that he was creepy with other women. And throughout this time period, a lot of the SJWs saw this, and what they did is they tried to hide it. Not just H bomber, but there's also a subreddit called Gamergazi, which is a big
Forgive
SJW
my
forum.
interruption here, but I think,
Yes.
but we do see similar, we have seen similar things with the Catholic Church, where they had priests that were held up in high regard, and these priests would abuse kids, and it's kind of like the church would press on these kids to take back their accusations or try to shelve them. So, I mean, it's
Yes.
the same thing, and I think sometimes progressive causes have a parallel because it's kind of like they want to teach right. But, and that can be very attractive to predators because if the person's teaching right, then you're going to trust them. And these people are going to exploit it. I mean, there is a parallel. It's not that the left condones things like pedophiles or harassment. And yes, sometimes you have a predatory people that will alternate between praying and guilt for praying, atonement. I mean, it's that kind of thing. Am I making sense here?
Yes,
Yeah, well,
yeah, but still, I think we're going off topic, and I
I'm
think
sorry
we're,
if I'm sorry.
yeah, we're kind of
But
we're starting off topic with that because, I mean, it is related, but it's like going off on a tangent
yeah,
to
I'm
a
sorry.
different
I shouldn't have
subject.
spoken.
I was
It's
gonna
not
say
that,
this
it,
this victim had originally gone to Gamergazi, this SJW hub, right, to actually talk about his story, and the mods there deleted it.
so what you're saying is like there are like rape victims in the SJW community or the feminist community, whatever people want to call it, and H Bomber Guy and other SJWs covered it up and they tried to hide it.
Well, I wouldn't say that he was a rape victim. The accusation is that this person tried to continually try to invite them to their house, right, and harass them. So it was essentially sexual harassment, right, which that person believed would lead to being raped, right. But essentially, the whole thing was there was sexual harassment going on, and not only did Gamergazi, but also H Bomber tried to convince this person that what they had experienced did not happen.
Okay. Do you have any evidence for it? Like you do have evidence for it as well?
We don't. I do not have evidence that the sexual harassment occurred, right? But what we do actually have evidence of is one, H Bomber actually admitting that this guy was creepy a long, long time ago. Two, we have evidence of the accusation being deleted. We also have evidence of H Bomber on multiple occasions trying to convince the person that their experience just didn't happen.
You know, I have a theory about this. Um, okay, it's kind of like this goes back to like a rape culture of whether or not whether we do or we don't live in a rape culture. And the thing is, to feminists and whatnot, rape is the ultimate evil. So what happens is that people have a hard time believing that a person who's like nice, kind, and friendly in other ways engages in sexual harassment. You know, like which to me like makes matters a bit worse. You know, because it's kind of a lot like, especially if a person is part of your in group and the evil anti-feminists are part of your out group, and you know a person, they help you with your videos, they're nice to you, they're kind, they're wonderful, and it's kind of like it goes against your perception that they're the ultimate evil. And I do think that a lot of times going with going with this idea that something is just completely evil just makes matters worse instead of better, because then people begin to think, how could a person this nice do something like that? How is it that a person this great would do something like that? But that's because you turned rape into something that only a person who's overall nasty would do, like somebody like part of the out group, like Sargon must do it because Adikis means Sargon must do this because Adikis nasty. You could never ever imagine that somebody who's your close friend could do something such as sexual harassment. And I do think that that the way it's presented, like if you're raped, you're the most horrible person in the world. I do think it causes far more harm than good, as opposed to you can be nice in other ways, but you can still do something totally horrible. And I think that's the point that vernaculars was trying to make about Hitler. Vernaculars, or there were some people who were kind of like, well, Hitler, he probably loves dogs, and he loves dogs, and he gave to charity, and he did all these nice things. I do think that acknowledging the human side of somebody who does terrible things is a lot more beneficial to society than somebody who is one, unrealistically 100% evil, like they push old ladies, they rob from the church, they're mean and rude constantly, instead of a person who probably gives to charity, helps his friends, helps his mother, help the old, and then, sexually harass people. I do think that when people realize that you can be good in other ways and still do terrible things, to be a lot more productive for society.
I think the main thing to take away from the story is that this guy, H Bomber, knew that he was creepy with the women that he knew of, right? But he decided to keep this guy around as a moderator on his Discord, where he could naturally contact other women, and also he also worked for H Bomber. It's not exactly the the kind of thing that someone in the SJW community should be doing, and even outside the SJW community. If you think one of your friends is creepy with women, right, they should not be in a position of power.
Yeah, I think it's cognitive dissonance. I think it's cognitive dissonance of like what I was saying earlier. Like, how could my friend and how could a person who's helping me out do something like that? Where there's probably a state of ambivalence where I do think he's probably feeling a lot of conflicting emotions. Like, no, 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 it must be that side. It must be the anti side. It must be people like Sargon, and I do think that cognitive dissonance, moral ambivalence. I do think things like that clouds judgments. And it's like, well, if we are the feminist side and this happens to us, the other side must be really horrible. I do think cognitive dissonance clouds judgment, which is why H. Bomber would keep him around, which is why H. Bomber would have him continue moderate chats and work on his videos, because it is probably hard for him to process a guy like this is creepy to women.
He only actually ever did something after um, the scandal got onto Twitter, and we found out about it.
Mm.
I'll show you a note that the video I'm also working on, right? You've also known about the scandals about Hannibal the Victor 13 and various other SJWs. I'm going to go into more detail than anyone else has gone into. For example, how long Hannibal the Victor actually, what his sentence was, right? And I'm also going to reveal some evidence that suggested that he was a creep before any of this actually happened.
Oh, anyway, I did see something really interesting. It's tweets from not cognitive doll, but ContraPoints, to everyone who wants me to make further statements about Jesse Single. Right now, please understand that in the last few days, I've been called a TERF, a transphobe, a victim of grooming, the next Blair White's, a traitor scum. And, I found that interesting because ContraPoints loves to give Blair White's a little bit of hell. ContraPoints made like 2 or 3 videos complaining about Blair White's. And when Blair White's and Contra did debates together, Blair was like, I was accused of trans genocide. And Contra was like, well, you should see where the other people are coming from. And now Contra's like, I've been called this, I've been called that, I've been called this, I've been called that. And it's kind of like, you're becoming all of, it's kind of like Contra wants to feel, Contra wants, I don't know, emotional support because of all the names she's been called, but she couldn't understand where Blair White's was coming from when the exact same community was accusing her of trans genocide. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, I'm not even quite sure trans genocide exists.
Trans genocide.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because the genocide requires an active desire to kill like a class of people, right? And I'm not quite sure there's someone out there who just wants to kill trans people.
Sorry for interrupting, but I would say that the word genocide is being used in so many different ways these days that it just cheapens the word. Something that's a crime against humanity is being used to describe any type of societal change.
Oh yeah, as with the white genocide people.
Yeah, like the white genocide people. Anyway, Ausyarr, what's your opinion on the Candace Owens situation? Red Pill Black, Candace Owens.
Well, originally she came up with this idea, right, to essentially create a database of trolls and link the trolls to real people's names, right? Now, we immediately saw that as, oh, that's a doxing website, right? However, people like Zoe Quinn saw that, and you would think that they would be in favor of this, right? Because their whole thing is they're being harassed, right? So you would expect them to want to have the harassers be identified and potentially, go to jail, right? But the strange thing that happened in that situation was that Zoe went to her and tried to get her to stop. Probably because the site might inadvertently reveal one of them as being the harassers, or it might inadvertently reveal that the people who were doing the harassments weren't actually real. So that's why a lot of people were a little bit mixed as to whether or not they should support her or not. But in the end, both sides didn't like her. One side didn't like her because they were probably she was maybe going to reveal their dirty tricks. And on our side, we didn't really want it because we just knew how easily doxing can be used to, destroy people.
Here's my opinion on the Candace Owens Red Pill Black situation. I think it could be that she is like a real go-getter type and that she could get really passionate in whatever project she's taking in. And she's probably like heard that, like Zoe Quinn is being harassed and Anita Sarkeesian is being harassed. And she's probably the go-getter type. She's probably like, okay, Zoe Quinn is being harassed. I gotta go. I got to do something. I got to make positive changes. And then something happened between the both of them that's which she could be telling the truth, that it could reveal that Zoe Quinn sent nasty messages to herself. And then she probably just feel like, she probably created it for, all of the harassments, all of the things that they were going through. And that could have caused a red pill moment if your project, if you really taking it seriously, if you really believe the harassment is really happening and it's really that horrible, and then when you try to present it, a person claiming to be harassed tries to keep you quiet about it. Not only that, but I was watching a video by a guy. I am probably gonna mispronounce his name, but like Ausyarr, Ausyarr, or whatever. He's a Proud Boy, and he actually has a friend who's also a fellow Proud Boy who actually knows Red Pill Black, and this Proud Boy says, who knows her personally, says it's real, it's legit. You know, like she really did have a red pill moment. So it makes me think that she's just a really passionate go-getter type person, and her passion wasn't really shared to the people of the upper echelons of the left. That's what I think.
We also got to remember that one of the people who worked for Crash Override Network, you know, the acronym CON, Zoe Quinn's project, right? He was later found out that he was essentially exploiting women in the Crash Override Network and various SJWs. What he was doing, right, he was saying to these women, right, that if they didn't have these private conversations with him, he would kill himself. So maybe they're a little bit concerned about if the people on Crash Override Network would be found out. I can't remember his name, but that was disturbing.
JPM, was there anything you wanted to add? You're still on mute. JPM, you're still on mute.
Vision's bad, so you have to excuse me. But anyway, I don't really have much to add, but I was kind of suspicious of Candace as well as Zoe Quinn and the whole lot because it is easy to play victim, to try to gain some sympathy. And I think that some people they think only with their passions, but they don't take things to the next logical step. And I've seen that with a lot of SJWs and even some anti-SJWs. They think with their hearts, not with their heads. That's about all I wanted to say. I'm sorry I'm not doing too well here.
That's fine, mate. Actually, one thing I should mention, one reason why Zoe Quinn may have not liked Red Pill Black at that time, right, is that her project may have been competition for her project, and it might have just been jealousy.
Yeah, well, emotions get the best of us all. Even I've said some very fool things, even here, probably.
What makes you think it's jealousy?
Rivalry, competition. That's what
Hmm.
it all comes down to.
Yeah, but some would think, I mean, at least from talking to Christiosity, even she seems to be like upset with like Dot Singh because like even Christiosity spoke out against the Red Pill Black on Twitter. So even some people on the other side, they don't even seem to like the Dot Singh of other people's names.
Well, you know, what comes around goes around. If you do it to X, X may do it back to you.
Yeah,
And I
because
think that's what can happen with people like Steve Shives and the
yeah,
like.
I agree that this could always backfire when it comes to censorship because not that long ago, it was taboo to be gay. Like not that long ago, being gay could get you sent to a conversion camp. Being gay could get you kicked out of home. Being gay could get you fired from your job. So could you imagine if like, the rights, wanted to dox people back years ago when being gay was taboo and be on over the internet was the only place people could be openly gay or openly atheist, and in real life they just keep it to themselves and just hide it from the world.
Yeah, well, there was an interesting study done back in the 1960s by Lord Humphreys. And basically, he was able to infiltrate the gay community. And at the time, they would use public restrooms. And he would act as a lookout, and he was able to get these people's license plate. He found that many of these people were actually married with children. Now, keep in mind, this was a time when homosexual activity was considered sodomy and a crime that could put you in prison. So
Yeah,
Yeah, the best.
there was a lot of in the closet, and now everybody's coming out of the closet.
yeah, because there were gay people who were married and with children, that were like kept cheating on their wives, and I do think the exposure of that helped convince people to stop hating on the gays, because I remember, like, I still remember this episode of the Tyra Banks show where she brought out some wives who were married to gay guys for years and years. Like they would be married to a gay guy for 50 years and 30 years. And it's like 30 years or 50 years of their life wasted on a guy who doesn't even love them and is, seeing other men, behind their back. And that's a little bit of propaganda-ish, because there was this, tone of, this could be you. It could be you that is married to gay guy. So you must, be for gay rights. It had that type of tone to it. Like, do you want to be married to a gay guy? If not, to support gay rights, so gays could be out of the closet. You could be with a guy who actually likes you.
There was a study done during the AIDS epidemic about sexual partners of gay people, right? And they asked gay women, right, how many sexual partners they had, right? And people were saying about 30, sometimes 50, right? And then when they went to go ask the dudes, quite a few of them said 1,000 plus. I don't know what that says. Could say that they lie, but I found that was amazing. I'm not even quite sure how you could find 1,000 people to have sex with you, but they were doing it. I'm sorry, I just thought that was hilarious. Interesting.
So, is there anybody in the audience who has any questions for us, or does
While
anybody
they're
have any questions or things that they would like to say, or is there any thing that people on chats would like us to address? Uh-huh. Okay. Let put, I don't know how to pronounce it. You guys are mostly from Europe. No, I am from the United States.
I'm from the United States as well.
I'm from the United Australia.
Okay, cognitive thoughts ask, are traps gay? Yes, traps are definitely gay.
For me, it depends on how far the dick is in your ass.
Why not sleeping then? I think that's for us in the United States. I have insomnia.
Oh, I work late at night as well. I do quite a bit of programming and whatnot, so that's why I love my coffee. Long hours. I forgot even what the word sleep means.
Oh, Ren, I wanted to tell you a story about has to do with the reciprocity rule. There was this car salesman who was making $200,000 a year, right? And he was just an ordinary salesman, right? He sold about 5 cars a day average, which is amazing, right? And what he was doing, right? He was mailing about 25,000 cards to people in the city, right? Which just said I like you, and then it had his name, and that's how he got all these people to come to buy shit from him.
Yeah, this reminds me of Dale Carnegie, who written the
How
book.
to Win Friends and Influence People. That's a great book.
Yeah, and in the book, there was like this little poem. I think it's a poem, and it's kind of a lot like when I do something good, I hear it's never, but when I do something bad, I hear it's ever. Like if you do something wrong, people keep pointing it out and they won't drop it. But if you do something really good, nobody ever brings it up. And so Dale Carnegie said, show sincere appreciation. Like show gratitude, show appreciation because people aren't used to hearing genuine compliments. So when you give people a compliment or you show that you appreciate something about them, they are more likely to return in kind and show interest in you.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Be nice to people, and they're more likely to be nice in return. Uh,
Yeah, I've noticed that as well, and that's why I always try to tip my hat whenever I appear on video. I know that I sound like I'm preaching to the choir here, but there's a point, and I appreciate you having me on, Ran.
yeah, no problem. Yeah, when it Oh yeah, but Dale Carnegie also gave a warning though. Dale Carnegie warns, don't use flattery. Be genuine. Like if you give a person a compliment, but it's really obvious that you want something, if you're too obvious that you just want something in return, then people are gonna be like, shoo shoo, go away. But if you like are sincere, you gotta be sincere and to out of the goodness of your heart do something nice and kind or probably notice that a person changed their hair. People would lights up with joy, like, you notice that I changed my hair, you notice this, because people would really appreciate a genuine sincere compliment because people are actually not used to hearing compliments. People are used to being insulted, people are used to being ridiculed or having something terrible they did constantly brought you down. And Computing Forever did talk something about this with his video, The Orville, where he was talking about a TV show, where he talked about moral grandstanding and how people like it whip out their cell phones just in case you might do something bad. And so that they could air it on social media, so that they could let everybody know like how horrible you are. You know, people, yeah.
they did a study where what they did is they had these people collecting money for for cancer, for charity, etc. And what they did is um, for 50% of the time, right, they just asked for money, right? And then the other 50% times, what they did is they complimented the person they were asking the money from first, and I think they made about 70% more money on the people who they complimented first.
Yeah, yeah, cause like I said, when I was reading the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, he was saying that people are not actually used to hearing compliments. That people actually aren't. It's like you would think that people are narcissistic and there are people who hear it all the time. And yes, there are going to be some people who really do hear it all the time, but there are going to be people who hardly ever hear compliments, who are really going to be persuaded by compliments that they hear.
Oh, I know I feel pretty good when I get compliments in the comments. So
Yeah, I
Yeah,
also
I
like,
do too. I mean, I'm
yeah,
only human.
same here. I am only human as well. Like when I made my Dorian Gray video series, where I got into detail about the book, The Dorian Gray, and for other people who read the book to leave me comments talking about the book, and or eventually not that long ago, somebody contacted me via DMs, and they were talking about how they enjoyed that I made a video series about Dorian Gray and how they want me to review another book. And when somebody told me that they actually want me to review another book, it was just like, oh my goodness, like wow, like you really appreciated that, like wow. I
Ah,
mean, I worked so
now
hard
that
on that.
person's a salesman.
Yeah, it's like, it's like to have that, it's like it really lit me up. It's like, wow, it almost makes me want to cry. I actually feel like crying a little bit because it was like really nice and sweet of that person to, reach out to me and let me know that how much they really loved my book review series.
Classic salesmanship.
Mhm. Yeah. So, is there any uh oh, I forgot. We haven't talked about Donna Brazil yet, have we?
no,
No, we haven't. Okay, so JPM, why don't you go first on your idea on Donna Brazil? I'll mute myself.
I'm afraid that I'm at a loss here. I have no idea what you're talking about. Forgive me.
Okay, then we would go with you, Ausyarr. What is your opinion on the Donna Brazil situation?
well, there's certainly a lot of people right now saying, you know, I told you so to so many people. When I think it was only like half a year ago, we were saying that the DNC had rigged primaries, that the Hillary campaign was essentially controlling the DNC, right? And a lot of people said, well, that's just conspiracy theories, and obviously WikiLeaks had reported it, and obviously if you had believed the WikiLeaks, you were apparently some kind of believing the Russians. And now this Donna Brazil um, book coming out, which a segment of that came out through Politico, and in it, Don Brazil essentially uh, confirms all our uh, all our theories about what actually happened in the DNC. She says, yes, the Hillary Clinton campaign did have control over the DNC well before the primaries even existed. She also says that the DNC essentially dumped money into the Clinton campaign, which should have been split across the two candidates, plus also um, kept for things like Senate races and state races. Um, Rin, what were the other things in it? Was there anything else that I can't
Um,
remember?
I didn't look at the political article. I just watched a video. I watched a video about everybody. I watched a video by Philip DeFranco, Six Texan Hammer, CNN, but that was like on YouTube. I watched a video on by Ben Shapiro about it, so I just watched a bunch of YouTube videos. So I mass watched YouTube videos about the Donna Brazil thing. And for me, I feel vindicated because, I read WikiLeaks and I brought this up in forums, and people were like saying, I think like I was a conspiracy theorist. Like, oh, you believe in WikiLeaks, but that's like Russia propaganda. I can't believe that you actually trust WikiLeaks. And I got treated like a nut job, like a conspiracy theorist, and I was told that I was an Alex Jones fan, and I was told that I would get all my information from InfoWars, and I was just treated like a nut job and a crazy person. So feel so I feel so much vindication right now. Like, yeah, like I feel like just saying, like I told you so, but I think many of those people left, like, because it's not really an active forum. It's dying out actually, and I think that the people I argue with left because I don't see their names anymore, so they seem to be gone. But I just feel so good right now. It's like, yes, I told you
Yeah,
so. I
sorry
told
for
you.
interrupting, but I did have an opinion. I just didn't recognize the name. I'm sorry. I too have some very strong opinions, and I do think that this does undermine a part of our democracy. And that's one thing that concerns me, and that's probably one reason why the Republicans are becoming more and more popular. It's that the Democrats have been playing these kinds of things, and it's like they wanted Hillary Clinton in no matter what, and they wound up alienating Sanders supporters, and now this comes out. I think the best thing that could happen to the Democratic Party, at least all the people involved in this, what they should really do is fire themselves, or as I like to put it, fall on their own sword. What I mean by that is the resignation when you know you screwed up so bad, no one's going to believe you. You become the problem. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yeah, they have to do something drastic, right, to get the confidence back in their organization, right? I believe I can't remember her name, but her nickname was Pocahontas.
Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, she said that what they need to do is they need to bring in Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders people, right, and convince them that the DNC, right, is actually working and working the for the Democrats, right, and it's only if they can do that, then they can actually restore confidence in the process, which is what they desperately need to do.
When it comes to the DNC thing, what there are a lot of checks. What I heard is that like the Clintons have donated like millions and millions throughout the years. Not only did they donate throughout the years, but like even recently they were willing to bail them out of they were going to bail them out of trouble. Whereas Bernie, he recently switched. Something that they felt more obligated to Hillary because, well, the Clintons donated, he just came. So why would we go for this guy over somebody who's donated drugs for years? But I think that people's votes should count. So alternatively, what could happen is that if you I don't know if this would work or not, but I think that if you donate massive amounts of money to the DNC, then you should not be able to run. That's the way, there is no conflict of interest. You should be able to do what you're supposed to do. So, in my opinion, if you donate too much money to the point where it could be considered a conflict of interest or bribery, then you should
Yeah.
be exempted from
I
running.
mean, the way it is now, it's kind of like you plonk down all this money, you can be president. That's what the Democratic Party message is, considering what happened.
I mean, if we look
This,
at what Donna Rizal revealed, right, even if they had put money into the DNC, right, they essentially took money out of the DNC for Hillary's campaign. So she was essentially spending her own money, aka she never really donated in the first place. There was probably money in there to gain control. Once she had control, she was able to spend their money on her campaign.
oh, well, wait, just a minute. I have to disagree with you there. Obama
Yeah.
left the DNC $24 million in debt. But then Donna Brazil says that, like, the Clintons have been keeping the DNC on life support. Now it's $2 million in debt. So it went from $24 million in debt thanks to Barack Obama, all the way down to $2 million. So that is like a $22 million drop. So the Clintons really have been bailing the DNC out of debts, actually.
I don't know if 22 million is really like a large debt sum for an organization like that.
Yeah, but still, I mean, if they're not managing their money right and they're teetering on the brink of bankruptcy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they would rather be $2 million in debts rather than $24 million in debts. And I do think, in a way, like this vindicates the anti-feminist community that says that leftists are bad with money. Like, I know that the anti-feminist community and the Republicans said, like, leftists are bad with money. Now it's like, see, told you so.
Who was the last Republican to run against Obama?
The last
Can't remember
time,
his name.
that
Yeah,
was Mitt Romney, but there were like
Yeah.
two different ones.
yeah.
On the first campaign, it was John McCain versus Obama, but during the second cycle, it was Mitt Romney versus
You
Obama.
do you remember how Mitt Romney made his fortune?
No.
What he would do with the company he was a part of, right? They would find companies in trouble, right? And then what they would do is they'd bail them out, right? They'd essentially bail them out, right? They would get control of the company, and then what they would do is they'd get the company to take out massive loans, right? And then what they would do is they would then sell the company off, aka they bailed companies out just to load them up with debt to kill them.
I don't get the logic behind that, actually. You have to explain that logic to me. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, so say you're in a debt by your company is a debt by $10 million, right?
Right.
I come along and I say, hey, look, I'll give you some money, right? But in return, I want control of your company, right? Now you
Right.
go, well, I'm in debt, right? I can't do anything, right? I'm going to take your money, right? So you agree to the deal. Then
Yeah.
what happens is, with the control of the company, I go to the various banks, multiple banks, and ask for loans, right? And then
Yeah.
what I do is once I get that money, I, with the control of that company, find ways of transferring that money out of the company, preferably into my own holdings or companies that I own or have interest in, right?
Right.
So what happens is the company itself goes bankrupt, right? And because I'm only a shareholder, I'm not directly responsible for what the company does. Companies are incorporated, which means the company themselves is actually a person. So the only person responsible for what the company does is the company itself, and not actually me, who's actually really responsible.
But wouldn't you lose money that way, or like?
Well, if I put in 10 million, right, and
Yeah.
I manage to get the company to borrow $50 million,
Oh.
right, I transfer that money out into companies that I own, or I buy stuff from companies I own, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, there's an inefficiency there, right? But
Right.
I'm going to make that 10 million back plus more, and in the process, I'm going to kill a company.
Oh, so it's kind of like buy a company, then get loans from a bank, and have the bank transfer money to that company, and then close the company. After
Yep.
you. Oh, okay, I get it. You get more money that way. Oh, that's actually quite clever.
And the regulation boards, they don't catch on to this, right? Because they know, because companies that are dying are expected to die, right? So when a company dies, they don't investigate.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think that there is a lot of corruption going on with companies, but this is also how we get like really good movies, though. Yeah, at the same time, like we get really good movies whenever there's a lot of corruption that takes place.
So
And
in
like
the
that.
case, yeah, I was going to say, in the case of Hillary Clinton, right, she may have been giving them money, right, but she was essentially in control of what they were doing, because if they didn't do what she wanted, she could just stop giving them money.
Yeah, they were dependent on Hillary Clinton, but it's also related to Obama because Obama, got them to $24 million in debts, and Hillary Clinton reduced it down to $2 million in debts. But it makes me think of something. It really makes me think of something, and that is Obama and Hillary had having these secret meetings. Like we would see photographs of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama meeting up several times. I wonder, not only that, but the Obamas and the Clintons are close now. I wonder if Obama deliberately put the DNC in $24 in debts so that Hillary Clinton could make a power play and could keep the DNC attached to her, like dependence on her. Like that would be very Machiavellian.
Well, you've got to ask
You would
yourself.
be surprised. This is tame considering Machiavelli.
Yeah, you got to ask yourself, how did she get the Secretary of State right? Did she get the Secretary of State right because she was the best person for the job, or did she get the job right because she was dropping money into DNC that was in debt, and Obama had to accept her, or risk losing more money in the DNC?
No. Obama is what got the DNC in like $24,000 in debts, and then
Yeah, exactly.
I think that this is related to Obama and Hillary Clinton having all of these secret meetings. And I think that it keeps like the DNC dependence on her, and I think that's what they wanted because the Obamas and the Clintons are close. Like Michelle Obama keeps telling the Democrats to go for her girl Hillary, and the Obamas are definitely close to the Clintons. So it makes
Yeah,
me
well,
think
you have
if
to
it
be
was definitely meant to keep
sorry.
the if it was meant to keep the DNC dependence on Hillary Clinton.
Well, I think that you have to be careful when you take things, when you look at these things, that you don't immediately develop some type of mass conspiracy. It could be that the DNC was in debt in the first place, or they had to go into debt for various other reasons. I mean, you don't want to make a connection where there is none.
Yeah, that's true, but we know so far we know that because of Donna Brazil, we know that Obama has put the DNC 24 uh $24 million in debt. We know that it's connected to Obama, according to Donna Brazil.
Could just
Unless
be that the
anybody,
policies. Could be the policies that Obama put in, sort of stop people from donating. Like maybe he didn't do what donators wanted to do. That could have happened.
yeah. So this is why I think that because Obama puts the DNC $24 million in debt, and because Obama and the Clintons have been having these secret meetings, I do question if it was like deliberate. If that's the way the DNC is dependent on Hillary Clinton, and they have to do what she says. Like now, they have no other choice but to do what she says. I mean, this is straight up Machiavellian. Like, this is something similar to what I would read in The Prince, you know?
Yeah, I'm not sure she read the whole book because she failed at the end.
Yeah, well, the problem with the prince is, and even Machiavelli would admit it, is that sometimes all these schemes can easily backfire.
You know, the thing about Obama putting the DNC $24 million in debt, right? Now you can legitimately say, thanks, Obama.
Yeah, but you gotta understand that too. At least the voters, there are voters that love Obama and think that he did a great job. You know, Obama is like the patron saint of the left. Like he's the first black president, and like I went on vacation with some friends who love Obama. They view Obama as a Christ figure, and you cannot insult Obama around them.
Yeah, he did an okay job, I guess. Not for the DNC, but
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I think the DNC has a lot of problems. And sometimes I just wonder if they really were managing things properly in the first place and have been on life support.
well, no, they weren't because from the Donna Brazil thing, she talks about Debbie Wasserman, the head. What she was doing right was she was maintaining all the staff during the down period, where what would happen is normally they would cut like 50, they'd cut staff to save on costs during the times when they weren't needed. So what they were doing is they were running something like they were spending $4 million a year, where it would normally cost the DNC previously $2 million a year to do, because she was maintaining staff during the periods where there weren't any elections.
yeah. Like I did this, what you say, like what you saying. Like, by the way, also, do you know who appointed Debbie Wasserman shows? Like, do you know?
Um,
Like, who appointed her? Who helped give her that position in the first place?
I know. I'm assuming Tom Perez.
Uh, well, I guess I would try not to engage in too much speculation on that end, I suppose. But still, the way I view it, like I said earlier, it was Obama that put the DNC into 24 hours, $24 million in debt. They had secret meetings with the Clintons. The Clintons kept the DNC on life supports and dependence on them. I really do think that it's a case of just them trying to keep and maintain power to themselves because Hillary Clinton, the Clintons, even Bill Clinton, they are very Machiavellian. Like they are very Machiavellian. I would even say that Obama is probably a bit Machiavellian as well.
All politicians are.
Mm.
I mean,
Well, you
people
know,
say we want honest politicians, but I don't think we really do.
no,
Well,
we prefer our politicians to win, really.
well, to be fair, there are sometimes, and this comes from watching the Justicar. When it comes to classified information, sometimes politicians have to lie to us for the greater good. Because if the president was always honest to us all the time, they would be compromising secrets that could put the USA in jeopardy with other countries.
Yeah, but I mean, even Richard Nixon, it turned out that he had actually gotten South Vietnam out of some negotiations that LBJ was trying to do. So, by saying to the South Vietnamese, we'll give you a better deal. So the South Vietnamese didn't show up at this conference. And Nixon got into office, and he immediately sold them out. And this was known about by the LBJ camp. It was only revealed some years ago, I think.
Oh, I think it's time for me to get going. I'm getting hungry.
Oh, really? I hate that you had to go so soon because there was like I wanted to add on to what you were saying earlier. Like I was looking for a quote that I have by Lord Henry from the picture of Dorian Gray. There was something because it was to add on like what you're saying about like do we even really want to have like honest um politicians and whatnot.
I don't think we do. I think we're more interested in having our team win. And if that's Trump at the top, or if it's Clinton at the top, or Bernie, or whatever, that's who we want to win. Whether or not we really want them to do what is good for the country is another thing.
Okay, this is what I wanted to show to you, Ausyarr, when you were saying earlier that do we really want an honest politician? And here is the quotes from Lord Henry from the picture of Dorian Gray. None of us can stand other people having the same faults as ourselves. I quite sympathize with the rage of the English democracy against that against what they call the vices of the upper orders. The masses feel that drunkenness, stupidity, and immorality should be their own special property, and that if any one of us makes an ass of himself, he is poaching on their preserves. When poor Southwark got into the divorce courts, their indignation was quite magnificent, and yet I don't suppose that 10% of the proletariat live correctly. And I thought that that was a perfect addition to what you were saying of do we want honest politicians? And I think not, because it's kind of a lot like, even though like so many people lie, so many people cheat and whatnot, it's when it came out that like Bill Clinton cheated on his wife, there was such a moral outrage and moral grandstanding. Like, how could he? When at the exact same time, like I don't know, like I don't know, 55%.
Well, I think people will forgive various types of sexual acts, but they won't forgive a liar. At least that's one thing that Dick Morris, that one book. He made a book called The Modern Machiavellian, and he worked in the Clinton White House. And he was saying that people will forgive some things, but they won't forgive dishonesty, and that's what. So had Nixon actually, when the Watergate scandal came out, he could have said, yes, there was this report, yada, yada, yada. He would have been fine. And likewise, Clinton might have been fine had he actually admitted to that Paula Jones affair.
Yeah, like because people love to rationalize for their side. People love to make excuses for people on their team. So had Bill Clinton just been honest and straightforward, I think that people would have come up with a bunch of excuses for him anyway. I mean, many people do forgive him anyhow, so he could have just been honest and truthful. But I do think people do forgive lies. I think people hate manipulation more. But anyway, Ausyarr, you said that you were hungry, so I won't keep you for too long. So, what are your final words?
I know. I'll leave you with this quote that I found recently, which I really find interesting. It's from J.P. Morgan, not the bank, but the guy who actually started the bank a long, long time ago. The quote goes, "A man has a man always has two reasons for doing anything: a good reason and a real reason."
That's a favorite of mine as well.
Yeah. And we'll just close it out now. So JPM, what are your final words?
I don't have any, but my hat is off to you. And thank you for your time, and thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I know I haven't been the best guest, but anyway, that's all I have to say. Thanks for everything.
Um, don't stress over it. Like, we've all been, new to hangouts and whatnot. I don't really have any final words myself. Is there any final words from the audience? Any final words from chat? Like anything the chat wants to say to us before we all go and do our own thing?
Yeah, subscribe to Rin. She's almost at 400, one away.
Yeah, I'm one away from 400. So if any of you are not subscribed to me, please subscribe. It looks like the audience also doesn't have any final words. So goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Later, and thanks for everything.